here.
Councilmember Austin Lane. Here. Councilmember Barry.
Here.
Councilmember Clay.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Present.
Councilmember Simper.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
As I'm sure everyone knows, this is the last meeting of this City Council, and tonight we will also have the first meeting of the next City Council. But before we do any of that, I would like to allow anyone in the audience who has a comment an opportunity to make a comment during our public comment period. As we always ask you to do, when you come up to the podium, if you would identify yourself, and also if you could keep your comments brief, we'd appreciate it.
Is 30 minutes brief enough?
Only if you want to incur the wrath of everyone sitting here.
Right. I know there's a time for future tributes for both you, Mayor, and Joy, but I couldn't let this evening of transition pass without saying a couple of things. The two of you, Mayor and Joy, so many years of tireless work, and this sounds awfully loud. So I want to thank you on behalf of all of us out here who don't have the stomach to do what you do, and to those of you who will carry on. Bruce, the new mayor in his tux, is already setting a new standard for something. And Dan and Josh, who are going to be new to the council, Ruben, who's relatively new, Terry, Colleen, Doug, who are carrying on, I salute you. Thank you.
Erwin Mack, Executive Director at Tacoma Langley Crossroads. Probably just should say amen and sit down to what Howard said, but in particular to the mayor, whom I've had the pleasure of knowing for 17 years, even giving her a ride in the back of a pickup truck one time on a 4th of July parade. And to Joy, we thank you for your particular services, and to the council at large, thank you for the good work we've done together. Looking forward to working with the new council. God bless.
My name is Jerry Stocks. I'm the president of Washington Adventist Hospital. And I want to say, Mayor Porter, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. Thank you for your support of the hospital and your wisdom. It's hard to believe it's been about 3 years since I've been here, and you have been nothing but a joy to work with, and I am very grateful and appreciative of your service to this community and also your service to the hospital. And Councilmember Williams, congratulations. Looking forward to continuing that collaborative spirit. I've appreciated your attitude and what you've also done for this city. Look forward to working closely with you. I just want to say, too, Councilmember Siemens, thank you for your representation in our area by the hospital there. You've also been a person that I've had a great deal of respect for, as well as the whole council, and I look forward to continuing working together and achieving the goal of excellent health care in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Chavis. I'm new to the city of Tacoma Park. I've been a resident here for over a year. I'm here today to present to you a petition for the Homeowners and Bank Protection Act of 2007 to stop the foreclosures that's happening here in the United States. So far, we had 2 million. We're on the way to 7 million. So we have a petition here that was signed by the other mayors and council members in Baltimore, Annapolis, and other parts of Maryland as well. We would like for you to write your own resolution to present to Congress. I have your folder here, Mayor, if you'd like for me to give it to you.
I think it's probably appropriately given to the incoming mayor, and I'm sure he'd be happy to receive it. Thank you.
My name is Chris Schmidt, and I'd also like to speak to this issue of stopping home foreclosures. I'm newly arrived to Maryland, resident of Baltimore, and the legislation that is being proposed by Lyndon LaRouche has been endorsed by a number of cities, including Gary, Indiana, Pontiac, Michigan, many others. I'd like to read parts of the core of the act. It would take about 3 minutes. Part of this was...
Can you be brief?
Yes.
Thank you.
Part of this was actually referenced verbatim by Congressman John Conyers of Michigan in a hearing on housing in his Judiciary Committee. Here are the essential features of the Homeowners and Bank Protection Act of 2007, which we urge the new City Council to endorse. 1, Congress must establish a federal agency to place federal and state chartered banks under protection, freezing all existing home mortgages for a period of however many months or years are required to adjust the values to fair prices, restructure mortgages at appropriate interest rates, and write off all of the cancerous speculative debt obligations of mortgage-backed securities, derivatives, and other forms of Ponzi schemes that have brought the banking system to the present point of bankruptcy. 2, during this transitional period, all foreclosures shall be frozen, allowing American families to retain their homes. Monthly payments, the equivalent of rent, shall be made to designated banks, which can then use the funds as collateral for normal lending, thus recapitalizing the banking system. Ultimately, these affordable monthly payments will be factored into new mortgages. 3, state governors shall assume the administrative responsibilities for implementing the program, including the rental assessments to designated banks, under the authority of the federal government, which will provide the necessary credits and guarantees to assure the successful transition. By September, October, unless this legislation is enacted as a first order of business by the 110th Congress in September, many millions of Americans shall be evicted from their homes. Of course, this has exactly already occurred over the last month, setting off a process of social chaos that must be avoided. The freezing of foreclosures is the vital first step in a thorough reorganization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll make my remarks very brief. My name is Jerry Belsky, and I also represent Lyndon LaRouche's Political Action Committee. Now, I know that Tacoma Park does have a history of passing various resolutions. In fact, I want to commend you on the one on impeachment, because as long as Cheney is impeached first, I support that. But on the question of this Homeowners and Bank Protection Act, this is of immediate necessity, not simply to stop the foreclosures, because the banking system, which we all depend on, is actually in more bankrupt than the actual homeowners. Emergency action is going to be needed. However, no one in Congress is prepared to take the point on this. They will follow. If the cities around the country and the state legislatures push the Congress, they are going to have to take action. What they're doing now will not work. You know, renegotiating mortgages and trying to give people more time to work out payments. That won't work. There's going to have to be a general freeze on foreclosures while we basically set up a new banking system the way Roosevelt did. Now, the initiative can come from cities like Tacoma Park, and I'm urging you to study this resolution and pass some form of it to tell Congress you must take emergency action as Roosevelt did. This is simply the first step to it's a firewall, essentially, that will stop the collapse in its track and buy time to put together a new banking system where essentially credit can be put into infrastructure, bridge repair, electrical projects, basic Roosevelt-type projects. The majority of this country would support that if they thought that that is what their state and local officials are demanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Austin Lane. I wanted to address not a substantive comment, but Joy is my wife, and she's leaving the city council now. And I just wanted to say I've lived in Maryland for about 17 years now, and I've learned now that Tacoma Park doesn't always have as good a reputation as it deserves in Silver Spring and surrounding areas. And I just want to say that it's actually a phenomenal community. Our family has learned and gained so much in Joy's 6 years on the city council. It's a very involved electorate with people who have such good ideas and such deep knowledge and expertise about how to solve problems and a real willingness to work on the problems and solve them. And our family has been very grateful for everybody's support and education, and we're also very grateful that you're returning Joy back to us as a wiser and better Joy. So we're thankful all around, and we'll certainly miss this, but good luck to the next council, which I hope will continue the tradition both of good government and of standing forth for issues that are not always represented in government. So thank you, everybody.
And I'm sure, Chris, you'll be very happy to get your Monday evenings back.
My name is Ed Sharp, 906 Clayswood Court. I think I was probably one of 3 people in this room on this occasion 10 years ago, the other 2 being, of course, Bruce and Kathy. And I just want to say, Kathy, good luck. I'll be happy to help you detox a little if you need any advice. And Bruce, is this a new clothing requirement that you're going to start imposing on the council?
Well, I just wanted to say, Ed, thank you. You were sort of my role model as mayor when I began this job, and I very much appreciate the mentoring I got from you, both the direct answering my questions as well as the example that you set. So thank you, Ed, very much. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Taba Wasaf. I live in Tacoma Park, Ward 4, and I'm an active member of the Tacoma Park Community Action Group. For the last year, I've been very active, and for those of you who are leaving us for better and bigger things, thank you. Ever since I started in the Compensation Committee, I know how much love you have, and you serve for the passion of serving, and I have the highest respect for you. And then for those of you who are assuming the position, we're behind you. We have a big plan to bring the community involved. It takes, in our understanding, it will take a vibrant community to make a city work. So the Tacoma Park Community Action Group has a plan. We support you. We're with you. And we look forward to working with you. Thank you. And especially Terry Simmons, my councilman, I would like to publicly recognize the effort that you're working has impressed me, has changed me, and I'm with you for the rest of the time. Thank you.
Well, thank you also for your dedication and the work you've done for the community. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, if there's no one else, we have a couple of items of business. The first of those is the adoption of minutes, and I want to thank Jessie Carpenter, the city clerk, who put in an enormous amount of time. She always puts in an enormous amount of time, but she put in even more time this time to get us all caught up on the minutes so that the current council could adopt all of the minutes that covered our term in office, and we wouldn't have to have that sort of awkward, the new council asking the old council if this was in fact correct. So we have in front of us the minutes of September 17th, September 24th, October 1st, October 8th, October 15th, October 22nd, and October 29th.
Move approval. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are adopted, and I have a couple of small items, and I see incoming Mayor Bruce Williams does also. The other is just to note for the record, I guess my final mayoral proclamation, which was a proclamation commending the work of the Sligo Seventh-day Adventist Church for their annual Festival of Praise, which was held this last Saturday, and in which they collect food from the congregation and distribute it to needy families in the community. And so I will enter that proclamation for the record. The final item on this last meeting of the old council is an opportunity for members of the council to say whatever they would like to say, those of us who are leaving and those of us who are continuing on. And I wanted to take the opportunity to start with a few comments of my own. I apologize for reading this, but I thought a great deal about what I wanted to say, and in order to make sure I covered it all, I had to write it down. It has really been a privilege to be your mayor for the last 10 years. Tacoma Park is such a special community. I don't think there is anywhere else I could have actually done this for 10 years. But I've loved being mayor. Of all the things I've done in my life, I think this has been the most rewarding. I want to thank all of you for allowing me to do this. I've been honored to count many of you as supporters and friends, and you have all helped make this community such a wonderful place. I also want to thank the Tacoma Park staff. They are an incredibly valuable resource to the council and to the community. I know the staff mostly hears from us when something is going wrong, so it's important to let them know that we appreciate the job that they do. One of the advantages of having been around as long as I've been is that I get to give people advice. So I have 3 pieces of advice for the incoming council. The first is to always do the best job you can, but don't be afraid of criticism. You will find that you get a lot of unsolicited advice on the job you're doing on the council, some of which is very good. You should listen to it. But after you've heard all of the advice and considered it, if your judgment leads you in another direction, don't be afraid to go there just because it will open you to criticism. After all, the only sure way to avoid being criticized is not to do anything at all. In the long run, you will be judged by the ultimate result of what you do, not by how some people feel about it at the time. My second piece of advice to the new council is to treat the city staff as the valuable resource they are. You have at your disposal a group of very talented people with the right skills to accomplish good things for the community. Don't waste this resource by making the staff take the blame for things that go wrong. Their job is not to protect you from controversial issues, but to give you the tools to deal with these issues in a constructive way. Don't penalize the staff for telling you things you don't want to hear, or you will become the recipients of a lot of unwelcome surprises. It's the staff's job to give you objective, unfiltered information, and it is your job as the council to decide how best to use that information for the community. My third piece of advice is to keep your eye on the goal. I know from my own experience how hard it is not to get caught up in the issues of the day such that you lose sight of your longer-term goals. What I've tried to do over the past 10 years has been to help our community deal with the inevitable changes that come with time without losing what's most valuable about Tacoma Park. We've had a lot of challenges over the past 10 years, shaping development so that it serves our needs, creating and preserving stable sources of revenue, nurturing the diversity, which is one of the strengths of our community, to name only a few. When I look back on what we've done over the past 10 years, there are several things that stand out. One, of course, is the community center. I'm very proud to have been a part of creating this building that has become such a good resource for our community. That's not to say that we haven't made mistakes along the way. It's only once in a generation or so that a community undertakes such a large building project, which means that none of the community leaders at the time have had the experience of doing anything like this before. I hope the gym has begun before those of us who've had the opportunity to learn from this experience are gone from the council, or the next group will have to make their own mistakes as they learn. But it makes me very happy to walk through the building and see the young people playing in the game room, groups meeting in the meeting rooms, people busy at the computers, and the budding artists working on their creations in the art room. I'm also proud to have been part of a community that never lost its interest in democratic activism. Whether it was standing against an immoral war or speaking out for the impeachment of the leaders who proposed to save us by eliminating our civil rights, Tacoma Park can always be counted on to stand up and be counted. But our activism has also served us in less publicized ways. After an excellent report by our Tax and Service Duplication Issues Committee, several members of the committee got together and met with the candidates for county executive last fall during the election campaign. Out of those discussions came a pledge by our current county executive to work with the municipalities on tax duplications, which in turn led to the county municipal tax rebate discussions that are now going on. We should also be proud of our longstanding commitment to diversity in our community. One of the ways in which Tacoma Park is special is that we welcome people of different races, ethnic groups, countries of origin, and income levels to our community. But we cannot assume that this diversity will be preserved unless we are willing to take active steps to do so. One of the dangers that I see potentially threatening this diversity is the increase in housing prices in our city. As housing prices increase, families have to have higher incomes to afford to buy homes in Tacoma Park. If we do nothing, we could end up with a community of upper middle class families living in the neighborhoods of single family homes and lower income families in the apartments with no one having incomes in between these two levels. Rent stabilization has been very effective in preserving affordable housing for low-income renters. I am very pleased to see the new council ready to tackle the even more expensive and complex problem of providing affordable home ownership opportunities. As I turn this office over to the next mayor, I want to thank you all again for giving me this tremendous opportunity. I may be leaving this office, but I'm not going anywhere. I look forward to continuing to be active in Tacoma Park, although I hope not quite as active as I have been. You may even see me show up on occasion to comment as a city resident on some issue before the council. To my colleagues continuing on the new council, I want to say that I wish you well. It's been a privilege to serve with you all. Bruce has been a fine council member for 14 years, and I know he will also be a fine mayor. I want to thank Joy, who's also leaving, for her dedication to her constituents and to this job. I hope I will continue to see all of you at community and events in the future. Thank you all very much for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Would anyone else like to say anything? You want to say anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd just like to thank you for not only your 10 years as mayor, but your 7 prior years on the council. I know that there were times, particularly during the early part of your tenure, when you may have felt like you were alone on some issues and some positions that you took. And I'll say not always, but many times I think you were proved right in the positions that you took and the votes that you took when you were alone. And I think that was probably very gratifying for you and a great learning experience for the rest of us. I think you provided a wonderful groundwork for the next council and future councils in understanding how to lobby other levels of government and other organizations and groups who have a great deal of influence on what we can do in this city. And you shouldered a lot of that responsibility, and that I know that took a lot of time and made it in many ways difficult for you to spend time on other things that you needed to, and we really appreciate that. And I think I just also wanted to mention the fine recognition that you got at the 50th anniversary gala of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments last week, where you received the first Lifetime Achievement Award for your work at COG and its Transportation Planning Board. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that.
And Joy, sometimes it's been a trial, but it's been a pleasure to work with you and to see the passion and the strength that you've used in representing not only your residents in your ward, but all of the city on any number of issues. And MCNAC and Arts and Humanities Commission and the Tacoma Metro and plenty of other ones that were just, you just gave your heart and soul to it, and you gave your all, and we're all grateful.
Thank you, Mayor Porter. I've said that many times, and it feels strange to know that's the last time I'm going to be saying that on this dais. I know we're going to have another ceremony where we can talk about your many accomplishments as a mayor here and a council member in Tacoma Park, but I do want to take this opportunity just to let you know how much I admire the many years of dedicated community work and the many times that I've seen you give up some part of your personal life to work on community issues. I think you have set a new standard for dedication to the community here in Tacoma Park. I also wanted to let you know that I also admire the persistence that you showed in working towards your goals. Again, I think that's something that all council members should learn from you. And lastly, I wanted to say that I think one of the things I admire the most about you is your unflappability, regardless of what a community member says to you when they confront you, either here in the council chambers or in the many other meetings that I've had the pleasure of attending with you. I've always been struck with how quietly and politely and that you've been able to react to people who sometimes are not polite and sometimes quite abrasive or caustic in the way they present their position to you. And like I say, it is admirable, and I hope I'm able to do that through the years that I remain on the council. And then lastly, I wanted to thank you for the many things that you taught me during the years I've been here on the council with you. I think back, and there are a number of things. One that comes to mind is how well organized and your campaigns were for the office, and how hard you worked at campaigning, even when you were not running against me, but running in uncontended races, that you still put forward a very strong effort. And lastly, the great value that you taught me in building relationships with policymakers outside of Tacoma Park. That's something where I saw through my years here on the council with you, I saw you grow in that regard, and it certainly has been a tribute to Tacoma Park to have you invest that additional time beyond the time that you do here at the council meetings. And good luck in the future.
Thank you, Terry.
Well, I would just like to say a couple of things about what a great journey this has been for me. And the mayor has said very well all of the thank yous that are necessary from someone who is allowed to represent such a fabulous community. For me, this journey started shortly after I had my first child. I was in graduate school. I was kind of at loose ends, wondering what I was good at. And this gave me a chance to learn about campaigns and learn about governing in just the most personal and self-serving way, honestly. I was able to help my community, my neighbors, my streets, and the services we received from our city government. I was able to help that become better. And really, through that 6 years, my faith in government has been phenomenally, I don't know if restored is the right word, but just augmented. I had always trusted in good government and believed what government could do for people was incredibly positive, having seen my dad go from a family of migrant farm workers to someone who on the GI Bill went to veterinary school and had a very successful practice as a veterinarian. I have been kind of the lone Democrat in my family ever since I was allowed to register to vote. So that just tells you a little bit about where I learned to argue. My family is primarily Republican, and I love them dearly. And I think that that ability to handle differences and ambiguity is part of what I brought to the office, and I was happy to share that with this community that Chris and I both adore. We came here for the first time before we got married in 1990, and it was at a Tacoma Park Street Festival that we decided this was the place for us. And when we got married in 1993, we found our first apartment here together. And we've never looked back. It's just been a wonderful place to grow and learn and contribute. People have just driving energy that we found matched our own, and that's kind of a relief in this world where sometimes you wonder whether you're alone in your passions. And in Tacoma Park, I feel that we're just all together in this incredible journey together. So then after several years on the city council, we had our second child, Ben, and he's now 3. And Kate and Ben are in the public schools and in preschool, and we're so lucky to have had this experience of engaging with our community so that we know it so much better. The thing that really changed my situation was after getting my doctorate in public health and taking a full-time job, it just became impossible for me to steal time from enough places to really continue doing the work on the council that I felt the residents in Ward 1 deserved. So it was time for a change, and I feel very lucky and proud that Josh Wright will be succeeding me. I think that he and I both share many of the same values and the approach to governing. So I also want to thank Mayor Porter. I've only been on the council with you while you were mayor, and I know that you've had a long career here well before I came into politics. But I remember one of the first things that we talked about in our one-on-one, I guess it was just grabbing a cup of coffee together, was how you supported women and wanted to see women in power. And I always remembered that through the good times and the bad, and I think that we have hopefully had a good effect on each other. It certainly taught me patience being here, and you've modeled many things for me during your tenure. I see Larry Rubin is here, and he was the person I succeeded in Ward 1. It's really on the shoulders of other people that we stand in order to do the work of the council, and I'm really honored to have been given this chance. I think that Larry worked longer than I did, as his 8 years attest. But I think that all of us share something in common, and that is that we're up here with the very best intentions, and our motivation is sound. And that's what I've found, despite differences among council members' viewpoints, is that we really all have the right motivation for being here. I think that sometimes we have differences in judgment, and that's where the voters really need to come in and let us know where the right point is to aim for and what our goal needs to remain. But a couple of things I'd like to say about my other colleagues. Mark isn't here. He's now on the county council, and I'm very proud of him as well. He taught me many things about tactics as we worked on initiatives together. I'm very honored to have served with Bruce Williams, and his dedication and diplomacy have been outstanding in my view. I think the city is very lucky to have him succeeding Mayor Porter. And Terry Siemens is someone who I've been on the council with, and though he wasn't on the council for the first 2 years, he was a very helpful advisor to me during that time. And Roland Dawes, who has a long history of work in our business community, is someone that I was pleased to serve with. Cher Mack and Heather Mazur. Heather, as we know, has gone on to become a state delegate for us. Colleen and Doug and Ruben, we've served together a shorter period of time, but I'm equally honored to have gotten to know you, and I very much appreciate that you all are continuing the great work that is required on the council. So for all that this community is and all that that we give to it, I really do feel that I've gotten back in return well more than I put in. So thank you all.
Did you want to be recognized again, Terry?
I would like to be recognized again because Joey Austin Lane, council member Joey Austin Lane, has been very special to me here on the council. And again, I would like to take just a minute tonight to say that I really do admire your complete dedication to your constituents and the services you've provided them, and the unrelenting drive that you had in addressing the concerns and issues of your constituents. I think that has definitely been one thing I've seen over and over here again on the council. And lastly, I wanted to thank you for the many times that you supported me on issues that were important to me and my constituents. I appreciated your assistance on those issues, and I will miss you here on the council.
Well, it's certainly been an honor and very much a pleasure to observe the two very different leadership styles of our colleagues here who are spending their last few minutes with us. And, you know, both of them in their own ways equally effective and important and necessary. And certainly everybody here has their own style, and somehow, despite the dissimilarities, and the occasional friction, it's really so satisfying to be part of this group and to work with our fellow citizens and work with the wonderful dedicated group of city employees that we have here, more than 100, to figure out, to find a common ground and to try to do the right thing. And as I look back at the plaque above us here, realizing that the city goes back to 1890, that both of you are part of this unbroken...
we don't go back to 1890.
Hopefully not. Of course, there is cosmetic surgery and things, which is quite up to date these days. But in any case, this great unbroken group of people that have had the honor to sit here, and I do hope both of you will remain very much in touch. And I know Bruce brings another very different leadership style to the office of mayor, but you know, what a formidable style that is, and what a great leader and team player he's going to be. And I was going to observe that he's probably the only mayor in the country with the largest flannel shirt and fish-themed T-shirt collection. But then he went and came tonight with his formal wear and circulated a memo. And Bruce, I agree completely. We should definitely try to wear formal wear now every Monday night. But I tell you, the one thing I can't go along with is the powdered wig and the snuff box. Well, at least the powdered wig. And so thank you all very, very much, and we certainly look forward to working with you in your other capacity.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, if there's nothing else,
there is one more thing. If Dan Parr wants to say a few words.
The governor had asked Secretary Perez to be here, but then he called him away on ad hoc secretarial duties. And so I'm here with a proclamation from Governor O'Malley, and it says, "The Governor of the State of Maryland, to the Honorable Kathy Porter, greetings. Be it known that on behalf of the citizens of this state, in recognition of the commitment and leadership you have demonstrated during your 10 years as mayor of Tacoma Park, in appreciation for your outstanding service, on behalf of the Tacoma Park community and the people of Maryland, and in honor of the positive contribution you have made to our state as a passionate neighborhood activist, and as our citizens join in expressing our best wishes on the occasion of your retirement, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation." And signed by Martin O'Malley and Anthony Brown.
I guess, do I have to do the presentation? Well, thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate that.
Tom sends his regrets. He really planned on doing this.
Well, thank Tom and the governor for me also. If there is nothing else, then this council is adjourned for the final time. Everybody needs to leave. You get sworn in.
I, Bruce Williams,
do solemnly promise and declare that you will support the Constitution of the United States and that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution thereof, and you will, to the best of your skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, will represent the city of Tacoma Park to the best of your capacity.
I will.
Okay, have the honor and sign your signature, your name, and your address there, please.
Sign there and address there?
Yes.
Now, I guess I have to swear in my colleagues?
So you have them go up here.
They go up there? No, I think they go down here. They go down here. I haven't done this before. Come down here. Yeah. Yeah, come over here.
Okay. So we do them in order? Your name. Depends on what order you're talking. Are we doing them in
And I,
three?
I'm going to do it in some pieces and let you repeat.
We can do it alphabetically. Sure.
Yeah.
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Do swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland.
That I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland.
And support the Constitution and laws thereof.
And support the Constitution and laws thereof.
That I will, to the best of my skill and judgment.
That I will, to the best of my skill and judgment.
Diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice.
Diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice.
Execute the office of Council Member of Ward.
Execute the office of Council Member of Ward 6.
According to the Constitution and laws of this state.
According to the Constitution and laws of this state.
And the laws of the city of Tacoma Park.
And the laws of the city of Tacoma Park.
You each need to sign one of these. There are pens here, and then they're in ward order.
Okay. All right.
So
I'm in the middle, so go ahead.
Oh, group photo. Group photo. Yes. So let's.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
By ward.
And if we kind of turn sideways, we get closer.
Yeah, do as close as you can.
Squeeze in.
Barbershop. That's right.
Now, if we can pick something that 2 years ago, everybody got sworn in 3 different times, 3 different weeks, and there was never a picture of the old council. So if we can, Joy, if you and Kathy can come back up, and you can drop out for a second, and we'll get that picture we didn't have 2 years ago.
We'll move around so it doesn't look like one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. But could you change yours? Change yours, right?
Yeah, you go in the middle for this one.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
It has its life.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
And now I guess
I have no idea where to sit.
Who's going to tear these off?
Maybe we all help?
We can help.
Oh, my God. James. Oh, no, Williams.
Sudoku and cooperative puzzles and so forth. Is that right? Sounds great.
All right. We just have one more item on the agenda, which is any remarks that the new council wants to make, and then we can go eat cake. First, I'd just like to say that it's an honor and a privilege to serve on this council, and I look forward to my new job as mayor. I've been up here for 14 years, and sometimes you think to yourself as various things are taking place, gee, I could do that. I could do better than that. But I know that once you're sitting here, sometimes it can be really hard to keep juggling everything in the air and pay attention to all of the details and all of the various people and constituencies and colleagues, and just make sure that everyone's needs are taken care of and everyone is listened to. And I hope that I can do that as well as my predecessors have, and up to the best of my abilities. And I would ask your help and indulgence whenever I don't quite measure up to my standards or our standards. In doing that, if you can please assist me in trying to make sure that we all have opportunity to do our best and to be our best. I'd just like to make a few remarks about some of the things that I talked about in the campaign and some of the things that I hope we can look forward to in the coming 2 years. I know that one of the things that I pointed out to people that got one of the best responses was that I always wanted to start the meeting on time at 7:30, and I make that pledge here and now. We will always start at 7:30, whether we have a quorum or not. We will start the meeting, and I hope that in so doing that we can keep moving along at a pretty good clip, that we can give everybody their opportunity to have their input and make their comments, but that people will be able to come to the meeting to make those comments, knowing that we start on time and we try and keep moving through the agenda and get out at a reasonable hour, so that anybody who wants to make comments and participate in the process can do so without feeling like they might be here until I don't know what hour. I know it's certainly better recently than in years past. Way before I was on the council, I know there were many council meetings until 1 and 2 in the morning, and people going out for breakfast after the council meeting, maybe because there was no point in going to sleep. They might as well just have breakfast and keep going. We certainly got nowhere near that in my time on the council, but I just hope that we can exercise a little self-discipline and try and keep our comments brief, but I'm going to go on a little longer. I do hope that we can have a variety of meeting types, including maybe some mini charrettes and instigating some of the walking tours that we tried for a while, to make sure that we have an opportunity to go out and get input from our residents in any number of ways, not just in the formal setting in this room with agendas and cameras and everything else, but try and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to be heard. I pointed out that Kathy provided a great inspiration in working with other levels of government and other organizations, and I hope that this council will be able to emulate what she did, and that we'll become much more proficient at lobbying. We kind of left that to her in many ways, and we weighed in individually on some issues, but I think if we work at it collaboratively, we'll have much better effect on the things that we care about. And just some of the issues that I've talked about in the campaign and that have resonated with people that I'd like to see us have a little discussion around redevelopment issues. I think that was particularly brought to the fore in the recent changes at the County Council, where they changed the growth policy and accents even more the ability of developers to have developments to add jobs and residences in the county close to transit facilities. That's going to just renew the pressure for developers to want to try and put something in our community. And I think as much as we can have the discussion ahead of time and try and come to some consensus about what it is that we're looking for and what it is that we want, it'll be that much easier to go out and look for developers who can share that vision and who can work with us to make those things happen, rather than having to try and fight a rearguard action as somebody comes in and says, this is my vision, and we go, well, that's not ours. That'll be particularly important with the hospital site as the hospital goes forward in trying to move their facilities and leave something behind. We've already started that a little bit with the New Hampshire Avenue charrette in August, and Tacoma Junction is another area where I think that'll be very important. I think one of the other things that people have mentioned is making sure that we work very closely with the county and with the other municipalities in trying to make sure that the question on rebates is addressed and that we get our fair share from the county so that we aren't paying as high taxes as we are now. Another thing that's going to come up fairly quickly is a chance to look at what we want to do with this space to turn it into something that is more multifunctional. And we've already had one presentation on some possibilities. We'll have another one fairly shortly, and the thing that's going to drive that discussion is that we have certain monies that we have gotten in grants from the state for, at the time, a gym project. We're not going forward with that at this point. That money can be used for this room and anything else around the building that qualifies, and if we don't use that money fairly quickly, we will lose it, and I would not like to see us leave approximately $1.25 million on the table. I hope that we can move fairly quickly in discussing what we want to see in a changed budget format so that we feel that we have a handle on the numbers going forward and that it's easier for residents to understand them. I can foresee looking at our old greenhouse gas reduction plan that has kind of been on the table for a few years without much progress. We need to relook at that and decide how we want to go forward. I think in many ways we were ahead of the curve on that, and now we've fallen behind. A lot of other communities are working on that, and I think there are some examples of what we can do. The city of Gaithersburg has taken a number of initiatives, and I hope to have them here shortly to make a presentation about what some of the things that they're doing are and how they're working with the county so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're going to have the survey results from the survey that took place over the last couple of months. Those results, I think, are due very shortly, and we will be having a discussion about those so that we know the results of what residents in the city feel about level of service and various things that were addressed in the survey. And then just finally, I just want to mention that we have the continuation of the Tacoma Metro project, and we will continue to work that in any number of venues to try and make sure that the access to transit for this community is addressed now and well into the future. So those are just a couple of the things that I see us working on, and I look forward to working with all of my colleagues in addressing those and many other issues over the next 2 years. And I think we can get a lot done, and I think we can have a little fun in the process. Thank you. Anybody else? Doug?
Before the frosting dries on the cake, I just wanted to thank my wife, Liz, and daughter, Alana, who are in the audience tonight, for giving me the 100 Mondays that will be necessary over the next couple of years and will be without me on those evenings. Also, just in the last 24 hours, I received minutes for the next meeting of the Crossroads Development Authority from the dynamic executive director, Erwin Mack, who's sitting there, reminding me of all of the pressing issues that don't stop for the backslapping, and they include pedestrian safety, transportation issues, economic development, and of course, affordable housing. Then I also got an email this morning from a constituent who was concerned about the need for sidewalks in her area. That is one of the more contentious things that we deal with. That and speed humps are probably, the most likely to bring people to blows in this community. And thirdly, and unfortunately, word came of another armed robbery in the neighborhood yesterday. So it's time to go back to work. And that's what we'll do right after the cake.
I saw Colleen.
I want to thank everybody who participated in the election, both in Ward 2 and all around the city. I really appreciate everybody and all the support that people provide. It takes a lot to be a council person. It takes a lot of support from the constituents and the neighborhood groups and everybody, and I just wanted to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to my family for allowing me to do this. I know that people have a lot of big plans for the next 2 years, and I myself am really excited about the coming 2 years. I learned a lot in my first 2 years. I'm really looking forward to my second 2 years on the council. I think it really comes down to our being able to provide good quality of life at the neighborhood level and maintain our city in those broad ways that are very important to us. We talk a lot about diversity and making a place for families and young people, and that's very important to Tacoma Park, and I look forward to working on those issues in the coming 2 years. Thank you.
Ruben, if I could just say one thing that Doug thankfully reminded me that I'm honored to have my mother here with us tonight, Louise Williams, who is very special to me, and I'm glad that she could be here and share in this evening. And she didn't hear me.
You can play it later on streaming video.
Yes, I just want to make a few comments. I want to thank the residents of Ward 5 and my family, and I also am grateful to have some out-of-town visitors. My father-in-law and mother-in-law are here in the audience, and I greatly appreciate them, and the other residents of Ward 5 who keep me humble, make sure I don't get a swollen head. One of the things that has struck me in my 9 months on the City Council is that it's emphasized for me that the diversity of our city is a tremendous strength, and because that's where the new innovative ideas come from. The same old folks come up with the same old ideas, so we need the new people to help us out there. I also appreciate all of the citizens, residents who are active in this community, and there sure are a lot of them. And I appreciate all of them who come and serve on committees. I know Howard said that he appreciated those who are willing to serve on the council. I in turn appreciate those who are willing to serve on committees. And I can't finish without saying that we have a really terrific staff, as Mayor Porter said, and they make us look good, and I'm very, very glad of that, because this would be a really tough job without such a terrific staff in the city. And they are quite selfless about it. They're happy to feed me with ideas, things to think about, background material, and so on, which makes my job really easy. And finally, I have been so impressed. I had spent many years in the audience watching the council, and now that I'm up here, I really see how important it is that we have a council that has passion, energy, commitment, as well as solid ideas. And that's, in fact, what we have. And I really look forward to working with the rest of the council. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Well, I want to thank all the residents of Ward 1. I enjoyed getting to meet many of you while I was door knocking, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your ideas and your concerns with me. Like Ruben, I find that many of the best ideas come from constituents. And I also look forward to this being an ongoing discussion, us continuing to talk about the issues and concerns of the city and working together to solve the problems of our ward and the city together. I also want to give a special thanks to Greg LaBelle, my campaign manager and a Ward 1 resident, as well as Charlie Eder, who helped out on the campaign, and my campaign treasurer, Jim Kuhn. Thank you very much for all your efforts, and thank you to the many other volunteers that helped and worked on my campaign. A big thanks to my wife, Eliza. Eliza is been incredibly supportive during the campaign and is my most trusted and smartest advisor. I greatly appreciate her counsel and her help when I think through issues and ideas that I was thinking about during the campaign and will continue to do as I think about those through those ideas and issues that face the city. And also to echo Doug's comment, thank you for the next 100 Mondays at the very least. I briefly want to thank Kathy and Joy for their service. I know we'll be, honoring and thanking you each in a more significant way in the coming weeks, but your dedication, hard work, and many years of service are much appreciated from my perspective. And Joy, you set a very high standard on constituent services for me to live up to, and I look forward to doing that. And then I look forward to working with my council colleagues. I think we have a really great group. I had the fortunate opportunity to meet and talk to everybody during campaigning, and it was a little bit slow at the polls this year, so we had more time to chat outside. And I think we really have a great group of dedicated people who are going to work well together. I'm also looking forward to working with Barb and the dedicated city staff and with our city attorney, Sue Sober. And I would also say a big thank you to Jesse for running a very smooth and effective election. And as a candidate for the first time, she was incredibly helpful and just always prepared and knew all the answers. And I continue to see that as a common theme with Jesse. She's just top-notch. And then obviously I think there's a lot of work we have to get to. There's some issues around crime right now in Ward 1, and there's some specific traffic issues Barb and I have already started to talk about on Philadelphia Avenue in North Tacoma and also around Philadelphia and Maple. And we need to, work out those very local issues. I think also we really have to push hard on tax duplication issues. I'm glad to hear that Bruce mentioned that as a priority. And I think all of us in our campaigning acknowledge that that's an important issue and have an opportunity to address it in the next 12 to 18 months. Community-driven development is a very important issue. And I was just counting up and talking with Terry about this the other day, that in my ward there's 5 development projects going on or slated to go on very soon, or battles about development in the case of the metro. So there's metro development, there's the fire station, there's Tacoma Elementary School, there's the McNack Montgomery College, and then there's also the Ursiolo development, Knockwood, hopefully getting off the ground in Old Town soon. And I take a very similar perspective to Bruce, and I think we need some more development in Tacoma Park, but it needs to be the right kind of development, and we need to be proactive and set the tone for that development so we're not just saying no to things later on. I think we have a very dedicated city staff here who work very hard. But I also hear out from the constituents a level of sort of inconsistency in the service as they perceive it that's delivered. And to me, perception is reality when it comes to constituents.
And so I do think there's some work we can do about being more responsive and having a slightly more efficient city government. And then lastly, I think we need to push forward with innovative ideas to keep Tacoma Park a leading progressive community around things related to the environment, affordable housing, and immigration issues. And I look forward to pushing on those items with my fellow council members and listening to and implementing great ideas from the citizens. Thank you.
I don't have notes, and I'm a little bit at a loss for words, but I can certainly thank everyone in Ward 3 for helping me in a good campaign that was a learning experience for me with an able opponent, and we kind of egged each other on. So I'll thank Bridget Bowers for running in Ward 3. I'll thank my spouse who's in the audience, Sally Rieger, and my daughters who gave me a great deal of support, son-in-law, and a lot of support from a family. It's scattered all over the United States. But I've lived here in Tacoma Park for a good long time, so my family's scattered. I feel very rooted here, and I have a long sequence of people who I've met and people I've worked with in a variety of ways, and that all is part of me, and that's part of what I bring to the table, and I really look forward to working in this group to try to synthesize some of those experiences and some of the great ideas that are out there that people in the city have and in my ward have, and bring them to the table for some of the challenges that we have. And some of the challenges can be focused and ward specific. The Junction is a great opportunity for us to do something good there. And some challenges are broader. Our planet's heating up. We really have to figure out a way to reduce our use of energy in a dramatic and substantial way. There are ways to do it. We have to be creative in that. I could go on. I think other council members have listed many of the options and the opportunities we have. I think I'll just close by saying that I observed Bruce signing the documents there, and I realized that he's left-handed, and I'm also left-handed, and so maybe it's a ward thing. I'm not sure, but the water, yeah. So thanks. I'm very proud to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Mayor Williams, and congratulations to you and our colleagues on the council for being here as the new council. I would like to thank the members of Ward 4 for your support and commitment to me. It's a very big honor to me that you selected me to represent you in Ward 4 here on this council. I would like to thank my wife, Joyce, not just for being my wife and being supportive, but for being the other half of this seat. She does, I think, as much work as I do for the community, and I thank you, Joyce. I'd also like to thank my campaign manager, Tababu Asefa, and campaign workers, including Norman Ridgway and Diane Berkeley, who are here with us tonight. Thank you very much for your dedicated and unselfish work in helping me to be here and in helping me to do the work that we do in Tacoma Park. Really appreciate the support. I'm really joining this new council with great optimism. I look forward to these next 2 years. I think we have a lot of challenges in front of us, but I also, in talking with my colleagues who are now here on the council with me, I hear a lot of commonality in our interests and our goals for the coming 2 years. I'm really excited. I think we can make some changes. I look forward to improved financial planning and monitoring, as Mayor Williams mentioned when he was giving his overview. I look forward to a more systematic setting of the council's expectations for staff and in our oversight role as council. And I'll just mention a couple other things. One is I really look forward to increasingly aggressive attention to a more fair tax rebate system so that Tacoma Park gets more of its fair share of the tax dollars. So as we look at a improved financial system and keeping taxes lower, at the same time we can see increased revenues from a more fair tax rebate system. And then lastly, something that I'm less optimistic about, and that is the character of Tacoma Park. I see the economic pressures on our community as being very great. I'm glad to hear that some of my colleagues on the new council have talked about the affordable housing concerns, and I think there are other pressures that are changing the makeup of Tacoma Park. And so I really encourage community members to give that great thought and participation as we move forward. And I'm confident, though, that under Mayor Williams' leadership, that's an issue we will be addressing. So thank you all.
And in closing, I'd just like to say thank all of you for your support as we go forward. And I'd like to give a special acknowledgement to my partner, Jeff Burkhart. We've been together for almost 30 years, and I couldn't ask for a more supportive partner and a more wonderful human being. And as we go forward, I anticipate at times trying your patience as I find the ways in which my increased responsibilities as mayor are more than I anticipated, and the time and effort that I would like to give to this job might put a few more crimps in my style and maybe take a little bit more time, but I know that you've been supportive in the past, and I know you will be in the future, and I couldn't do the job without you. Thank you. And we're adjourned.
What time is it?
8:55. Only went a little. For the cover of the newsletter.